Now you're talking dirty.
Ladies and gentlemen, stand at attention. We're here today with Captain Ashley Drake of the Natural Grip. Captain, it's an honor to have you in the tank. How are you?
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. I'm doing great. How are you?
I'm fantastic. I'm really excited about this. As I've said before in the show, occasionally when someone comes in, my wife turns and goes, you have to have them on. You have to call them and get them on the show. And the Natural Grip was definitely one of them. But we went out of town the Saturday morning after it aired, and a couple of weeks went by, and I forgot to get in touch with you. So I've been getting harped on ever since from my wife to speak with you and learn all about the Natural Grip and your exciting and inspirational story, etc. So it really is a pleasure, and I'm curious to find out how things have been since you went on the tank. Tell us, can you kind of put it all in a little ball and tell us what that looks like?
Yeah, well, I mean, the Shark Tank effect is real. I'm sure you hear that every time you interview somebody. And the month prior to Shark Tank, which was October, we did approximately 10,000 in sales that month. The month we aired on Shark Tank, which was November, we did 132,000 in sales. So significant bump. And then we went into December, into the holidays, and we brought in around 80,000 in December. And since then, from January on, we've kind of leveled off around the 60,000 a month. Sometimes up to 80, sometimes 75, but pretty much if I had to, roll it up into a ball, we're around 60,000 per month now. So definitely higher than where we were.
Yeah, on average, about 6 times gross revenues per month as a result of Shark Tank. That's pretty, I think most people would take that given the choice.
Yes, I'm happy, but I'm not satisfied. It's definitely, once you become part of this elite group, you kind of compare your numbers to other updates and other companies. And, I just want the company to continue to grow and do the best that we can. And even with all of the success that we've had, starting from nothing out of our house and then growing to this now, I still think that we're just at the tip of the iceberg, and the opportunities are much greater for us in the future. So I'm very excited about the growth of the company.
There's something special about when it's a female, when it's a woman, when it's a mother, someone who's working full-time or part-time. I mean, you're still, are you full-time active duty in the military?
Yes, I am. I'm still active duty in the Army. I work here in Louisville, Kentucky at the Federal Building, and I work from 7:30 in the morning to around 3:30 in the afternoon. And so I have that commitment. And then when I stop there, I move on to being my 2 other jobs, being a mom and a wife. I kind of wrap those up into one. And then, of course, the Natural Grip.
Wow.
So.
Yeah. So I couldn't do it. You're more of a man than I am. But, the thing is, like, I look at, there's a lot we got to cover. First of all, some people are like natural grip. If they don't work out, if they don't do CrossFit, maybe they don't remember that you have the custom gloves, or they're not gloves, they're grips, but they essentially wipe out anything else on the market for CrossFit style exercise grips, right? Because they're custom fit for your ring finger. Is that about right?
Right. Yeah. The Natural Grip is an innovative hand protection device that protects your hands from ripping and tearing while working out. You can use it in the functional fitness space, in the CrossFit box. You can use it powerlifting. You can use it weightlifting. You can use it rowing or even landscaping. A lot of gymnasts use our product. It fits over your middle finger and your ring finger, custom made based off of your ring finger size, and then drapes down your hand and you attach it around the wrist. So it is the only custom hand protection on the market, and it allows for a durable protection, but still thin enough where you have a natural grip on whatever you're grabbing.
Yeah. And so not having used one yet, when I saw it, I automatically thought gymnast grip because I was familiar with those, but it sounds like it's a superior product. What's the difference between that and like a foam gymnast grip with the wrist strap on it?
Yeah. So the difference between our product and the typical gymnastics leather grip is that it is thinner, and the Natural Grip is custom made based off of your ring finger size. So we do have gymnasts that use our product. Typically how they use it, though, is they use the Natural Grip as an additional barrier underneath their leather grips. And the reason why is because gymnasts, when you get high enough up in the gymnast circuit, you're allowed to use grips that have a built-in dowel. And that dowel allows you to have better control on the bars you're spinning around. So that's definitely necessary for what they're doing, but they still rip underneath their gymnastics grips. And so they use the Natural Grip, which is custom made, to be able to fit underneath there to add an additional layer of protection. Actually, our grip is 10 times thick in the high wear areas from your normal hand. So it's just adding additional protection. But in the gym, the normal gymnastic grips with that dowel, they're either not allowed in the competitive aspect of functional fitness, or they're not necessary in weightlifting or powerlifting because of the Olympic lifts that you're doing. So people on that side of the house really prefer just the grip itself because it allows for that protection, but it doesn't hinder their grip on the bar.
Going back to my earlier statement about you being a female entrepreneur and having all these outside obligations that for most people would be excuses, right? You can't, I have kids, I am in the military, I have all these extra, how could I ever start a business? I want you to kind of take us through your mindset as far as getting the first product created and your vision of where the company was going to go. Because right now you're doing $60,000 a month in sales. I think everyone can do the math that, you're going to be a $5 million gross company this year. There's probably a time when you never envisioned that was possible, or just didn't have the vision to say, you know what, enough people want these, or I'm going to be good enough to make them or distribute them, et cetera. So kind of take us through your mindset shift over the last year or two.
Yeah. I mean, I never started out to develop a company. This all just kind of happened. I started working out specifically with the CrossFit box, and I was having problems ripping my hands. And so out of that, with my whining and complaining, my husband said that he thought he could make me something to solve this problem. And out of that, I tell people the natural grip was born. And I took a few pairs to my gym, and a girl was very emotional because we had 100 pull-ups for time. And I said, you can borrow a pair of these things my husband made. And she was very happy and thankful that I was offering her a solution that might help her. And at the end of the workout, she came running towards me and wanted to know where I got these and how can she get more, because she has always ripped her hands, and she didn't that day with 100 pull-ups for time. And it was just that moment when she said, I'll pay you for these. And I was like, no, you don't have to pay me for those. You can just have those. But it just clicked. And I said, wait, you'll pay me for those? And she said, yeah. And I said, well, how much would you pay me for those? And she said, $25. And then at that moment, right then, I just couldn't get it out of my mind. I was like, she told me she'd pay me for those. And so I thought about it all day and all day. I couldn't get it out of my head. And when I went home that night and I told my husband about it, as any good husband does, he wanted to let me know that was a crazy idea and that nobody would ever buy those, and that's silly. And I just told him, I said, well, let's just try. Let's just see what happens. I won't take any money out of the bank account.
You should have brought the $25 home and like, yeah, it is crazy. Check these crazies out. I got 25 of them right here in my hand.
Right. So yeah, but so that's kind of how it was born. And from that moment, when he told me that nobody would want them, I guess part of me wanted to prove him wrong, but part of me just wanted to see. I just wanted to see. I just wanted to start the adventure and see what would happen. And I just slowly went down that road with the mindset of, I don't have any money, I don't have any resources, but I'm still going to find a way to make it happen. I started a Facebook page. I put a Google order form on there where people would fill it out and submit their order, and then I would individually invoice them. And I don't even know who in 2013, back when that all was going on, I don't even know who would order from an order form, because I personally probably wouldn't, but people did. And it just it grew from there.
All right. So Captain, let me start there, because there's a lot of people in here who want to have a $5 million company. Some of them do in my audience, but many others have a product they think is awesome and they just can't quite get the fuse lit or sparked, so to speak. So I have a question about your husband. You've probably been married. How long have you been married?
10 years.
Okay. So I'm just behind you here, but my intuition was that if I was your husband, or if I knew my wife as well as he knows you, I'm like, I bet I could get her to make a ton of these things just to prove me wrong. And I go, honey, nobody wants to buy those. Nobody will ever give you money for one. And I know you would stay up at night till 5 a.m, making 10 of them to sell. Was he tricking you into doing it, or did he really think that nobody wanted them?
No, to this day, I've never made the product. It's my husband's design. The patent pending is in his name. It's his design and it's his product. I say all the time, he's the chief of operations and I just sell the heck out of it, basically. And so, no, I don't think he was saying that to try to taunt me or entice me. I think he does know me well enough to know that it doesn't take much. I'm a go-getter, right? I'm a
Right.
self-starter.
You're
So
alpha.
it wasn't going to take much if I wanted to do that, if I wanted to make it happen. And I think honestly, he thought nobody would buy them. Now, I will say he was getting his physical therapy assistant licensure during that time. He was in clinicals. We have a daughter. I've got a full-time job. Part of him was probably just, hoping, please don't add something else to this list. And I really think that he didn't believe that they would, because the day I called him and I said, hey, that connection I made with that lady that had that passion page about, fitness and CrossFit. And he said, yeah. And I said, well, she shared about our product and we have 150 orders. He was floored. He was absolutely floored. He was like, no, shut that off. What happened? And I'm like, nope, there's no going back now, And so it just kind of took off.
We didn't brainstorm about like your tactics or the takeaways, but I think you just touched on one of them that I tell people all the time. If you're starting out with a new product and you have no clue what to do, find someone who can help you get it in front of the right people. And I don't know if that's the first thing you did or if it came to you later, but you're already in the CrossFit environment. You know a lot of those people, you know how passionate they are about what they do. There's that joke that how do you know if someone's vegan or CrossFit? Because they've already told you everything about it in 5 minutes or whatever. But I think that, and that's part of the success with my Shark Tank podcast, is everybody likes Shark Tank and everyone wonders what happens to people who go on it. I said, well, there's an opportunity. So when you were kind of planning out the growth and the scale of this company, tell us about the plan you had to make it successful and how you actually performed versus your, what you laid out for yourself.
My original goal when I started was I was just going to start this Facebook page and I was just going to see if people were interested, and I was going to try to get a lot of likes. I had seen other stay-at-home moms or other people sell hair bows or wreaths or other things. And I thought, well, I can do the same thing. And so what I quickly realized, though, I could get people to like my page, but they were my mom or my cousin. And those people aren't going to buy my product. They don't need it. And so I needed to make connections with people that had a bigger platform. It had 100,000, likes on Facebook. And I needed to get to those people that manage those pages.
Exactly.
And that was really my goal for that first year, was just to make those connections, because of course I'm going to say the product's great. I'm trying to sell it to you. But if I could get somebody that motivates you every day, or that you trust, or that you already have a connection with, to tell you, hey, go check out this new product, then you're going to buy into that more, and you're going to be more open to that. And so I just sent out test pairs to those people that manage these pages, and not all of them shared it, but enough of them did where it kind of started this snowball effect, and where people were just thought that we had a production facility at that point. And I literally was at my kitchen table at my house. I was telling my husband, well, we're just going to fake it till we make it. But people just assumed right off the bat that we were this huge company, and we really,
right. They're like, what? I can't get him in street camo? What's the problem? Like, I need him tomorrow.
Right, exactly. Yeah. So from that point, I just continued to make decisions based off of what the company was demanding us to do. We didn't have 150 grips to sell until those orders came in. The orders came in. We made that product. We got it shipped out. And then the distributors started calling, and I didn't know wholesale pricing. And that's when I established that. And so every time the company was being pushed in a new direction, instead of closing that door, I just figured out how we were going to make it happen. And I mean, we had to make adjustments along the way. It's not like we had it all figured out initially. In fact, the natural grip when we first started was made by each ring finger size. So a size 3, a size 4, a size 5, a size 6. And as we continued to grow, I realized, oh my goodness, we can't keep this much inventory of each one of these individual sizes. This is just unmanageable. And so we made a strategic decision to combine sizes. So now you get a 5/6, which will fit you if you're a ring finger 5 or 6. And that was a huge moment for us, because we cut our inventory in half, but we're still able, to take care of and provide the custom aspect of our product. And it was just things like that, one after another, where when the company demanded us to go in a direction or when there was opportunities there, we just figured out a way to make it
And it's
happen.
funny because when you do things like that as a business owner, you're always worried about the blowback because we've been doing it this way for a long time. You tell yourself these lies, right? People are expecting a certain product, they're expecting it to be a certain way. And if I do this, I'm going to lose customers and they're going to go somewhere else. And I find this is true every time I do it with a product. What it really does is it helps me save a ton of time. It's more efficient. It makes me happier. And customer hardly even ever notices. And if they do, they go, oh, that was smart. Makes it easier for me too. Cause now I don't have to worry if I'm a 5.5 or a 4 3/4. I just know I'm going to buy this size. I mean, did you get any negativity or blowback or was it all good?
Well, not in regards to the sizing. We were the only ones and still are the only ones on the market providing hand protection based off of the ring finger size. So we've really educated the customer and we brought them along on this journey with us in regards to that. Now, in regards to the pricing, my husband had convinced me no one was going to buy these. So when we first launched, we launched at $10 per unit and they were selling so quickly. I realized we're probably underpriced.
Right.
And so we moved it up to $15. And that was also driven because when I had them at $10 per unit, there was no skin on the bone when the distributors wanted to get interested. So we moved up to $15 per unit. And that was, I got 2 emails, I think, people wanting to know why we had a 50% price increase. And I just told them, the demand is high and the product is superior. And I don't know if they were okay with that or not, but they kept ordering. So I figured that would be all right. And then when the distributors came on board and they said, your product, we are as a distributors, we're moving it to $17 for white and $18 for color. You need to come along for the ride. All right, sounds good to me. And then we just did that as well. So yeah, we've had some pushback along the way, but one thing that's never and will never be able to be negotiable for us is customer service. So anytime anyone's had an issue, we take the time to explain, we take the time to answer their question, we take the time to communicate. And because of that, our reputation is so good, not only within our primary market, but also in the other markets that we're starting to reach out to, that they know that the Natural Grip is a legitimate business that stands behind their product that's going to take care of whatever your issue is. If you ordered the wrong size, or if you sent it to the wrong mailing address, or if the product failed for some reason, we're going to educate you as to why that happened, and then we're going to send you a replacement. Because without the customers, there is no company. And I just don't play around with customer service. It is the number one priority.
How big is your team, or how much time do you allot to that? And the reason I asked this question about customer service is it's something that a lot of companies don't take the time to do, or they don't feel like it's worthwhile. I'm having the CEO and co-founder of Maui Gym Sunglasses on the show. He's a friend of mine, and I went and toured his shop with Dave Allwan from Echo Valley Meats, who's a superb guy if you haven't met him. Big fan of Dave's.
Yeah.
And he showed us the part of the floor where all the customer service reps are. And the tenure at this company is ridiculous. I think the average tenure is like 15, 16 years. These people all know the CEO's name. They all know each other's family names. I mean, it's just ridiculous how much camaraderie there was. But he told us the CFO, there's another C-level guy who doesn't go to any of the financial meetings. He goes, but if there's a customer service issue that's in their quote unquote red, he goes to that meeting and addresses it personally. He goes, because as long as we don't have those, the financials are never a problem. And as a result, they charge a premium for their product. And the average Maui Gym customer owns over 4 pairs of sunglasses. And that's all they buy. And so to hear him go through the motions of how good their customer service is, like he said, you never get transferred to someone from another company. Every call comes in, every call gets answered within 3 rings. Any person in their customer service team has authority to do whatever they want to make the customer happy. There's no like tier 1, tier 2, tier 3. I was kind of blown away by that. So to hear you say that you handle those customer service issues yourself and you put so much emphasis on making sure they're handled correctly. Tell me about the infrastructure that supports that.
It is me and my husband, 100%. There's been a lot of things that we've had to train people to do, from create the product to fulfill the orders to package it. But that is one thing that we haven't been able to let go of yet. There will come a time where it has to happen. Right now, either my husband's phone will go ding, and then about 3 seconds later, mine will go ding, and we know that's an email. And depending on what it is, he's answering them or I'm answering them. And I mean, that literally is 24 hours a day because we do a lot of international shipments. So we have to completely turn our phones off to be able to sleep for the few hours that we do. And when we wake up, we're handling those things. And because nobody's going to care about your product and about the longevity of the business as much as the owners are. And I don't expect our shark to be answering those kind of emails or handling that stuff, but 100% I expect us to. And we're not perfect. Sometimes, an email slips through or whatever, but as soon as we figure that out, we go above and beyond to take care of it. And right now the infrastructure is me and my husband, and we handle that.
I was hoping you were going to say, well, this is the app we use, or this is the company that's helped us hire, because I think that's such an important thing that people want an easy fix for it. They don't want to do what you're doing, but like you said, it's very, very difficult to get it done the right way if you're not doing it yourself. And I agree. As a business owner, you have to know what to give up to scale and what to keep on your plate. And that's going to be a tough decision for you when it's time to back away from it, because it's going to be required ultimately to scale, right? I mean, Jeff Bezos can't handle every Amazon request every time I complain about something, which is rare, but.
Right. That's true. And, we have a production shop full of 12 people currently, and we've moved those people to different positions. We've promoted within to a shop foreman. We've moved one of the production line workers up to support staff. And, we have a fulfillment guy. We're grooming people, and they hear how we handle things. They see how we handle things. And I think that we have about 3 or 4 people right now that are positioned where once we're ready or once it has to happen, they can step in. But they'll still need teaching, coaching, and mentoring to make sure that it's done to standard as well. Because that's just what will be required.
So I love that when they were playing B-roll at the beginning of your segment, because you got a pre-segment right before you aired, and they showed your husband like at the breakfast table while he's eating with the kids, putting the little natural grips together. And someone's like, oh, that's just TV. I'm like, no, if you're an entrepreneur, like that's real life. Like the cereal bowls kind of have to be pushed out in the way of the product as you're sitting there on your kitchen table. And I love that. What I am curious about is, now that you've done a deal with the shark and you've been riding the Shark Tank tsunami, you told me that you're still working out of your 900 square foot warehouse. How much of the manufacturing issues have been solved? How many of them are you still dealing with? Give us some clarity there.
My goal when I walked into the tank was to solve our production issue and to find resources on the manufacturing side. What I was educated about after I walked out of the tank and through the due diligence process with our shark is that those solutions that I thought were there, but I just didn't have access to, with the material that we use and the method that we make the grip, we've created this out of nothing. It's not like we have a product that I just need some sewing machines and some trained seamstresses. So because our product's so unique and because of how it all works and has to be very meticulous, those resources that I thought were going to be there aren't. But what I know was working was bringing staff in and training them. We had been previously working off of a subcontractor model where people would come in and get trained by us and they would do the work at their home on their own time, but we couldn't regulate our production that way.
Right.
So we could regulate it by bringing them into a production shop, them working for us full time. And if we needed more grips made, we just hire more staff and we train them. And so we've scaled that way. And currently, if we were, need to continue to scale, or if bigger opportunities come our way, our production shop would have to grow because there's not any other resources available outside of what we're doing to create the grip faster. With that being said, though, we then developed ways to do our jobs faster, but still to the level that they needed to be done, specifically on the production side of the house. And Justin spends a good amount of time refining that, making sure it's, straight, making sure it's good, and sitting back and thinking, okay, but now how could we make it a little faster? Or, well, that's faster, but it's messing up now at this step. So how do we correct that? And right now, I'd say everything's kind of level and we're good. But we won't stay that long. We'll have to continue to improve and progress as different opportunities come our way. So the manufacturing has been solved, not how I thought it was going to be, and possibly not how it will be extremely long term, but for now it is working. And we're able to employ 12 people in Louisville, Kentucky, and pay them good wages to make this product and provide it to the masses. And so I'm definitely proud of that.
That's great. That's great. When you talk about the manufacturing issues, it's interesting that sometimes people think, if I just could Google the right person or if I was in touch with the right factory, but you're right, for a product like yours, maybe that process doesn't exist yet. Or there's not a factory who has a machine set up to just kind of plug those into their system. But ultimately, I think if I were you, that would be the goal, is to figure out how to make that happen, whether that's here or overseas or whatever. But I think it's sobering for the listeners to know that the Shark doesn't always have that solution in place, that sometimes it just doesn't exist. And since you've engineered the product from scratch, the process has to follow along behind that from scratch.
Yeah. A lot of people want to tell you that they can do something for you. Simultaneously, they're hands out and they want you to pay for that service. And we tried to utilize a company down in Florida to make the first element, and they held up their end of the bargain. They did their part, but then the element that they were making was failing. Well, when the very first element in a product is failing, the entire rest of the product fails. And we had to have a massive recall. Actually, it was a $30,000 recall
Ooh.
of all of our product, not only from individual customers, but all of our distributors. And then we had to remake that product and send it back out. I mean, we're lucky that our doors are still open because of that. Now, I don't hold any grudges against that company in Florida because they thought it was going to work. I thought it was going to work, and I took a risk, but that risk was substantial and it almost put us out of business. And anytime someone says, well, I think I could do this for you, that whole scenario rolls in my head. And I'm a little bit more skeptical than I was, a year ago when people were telling me that they could help me out. And I just take that more seriously now. There's a lot more on the line.
Well, I bet the guys in Florida are happy that you don't hold any grudges, because anytime I tick off a 15-month Army Iraq veteran, I'd definitely be a little bit nervous, but it's good that you're not out for blood. I did want to mention that for people who don't remember your segment, when you talk about not being able to regulate these people that are working for you, you started off by hiring and training. You said you had some moms, you had some high school students, you had people that were looking for work, and you would just bring them in, train them, and you would let them deliver the product to your door and then pay them, which of course is a very unreliable way to get a certain amount of product that you need. But I thought for someone starting out, it was actually a really good idea as far as helping people get work and kind of find you. Also, it's a way for you to contract and test potential employees, which is the most important thing when you're hiring, is to try before you buy, right?
Definitely. I mean, we have, I want to say 4 employees that currently still work for us that started off on that subcontractor model. And I'm not going to lie, there was a point in time where I thought the natural grip would always be created that way, because I had just convinced myself, well, if I need more, I'll just add more subcontractors. And so I had 25 before we decided that wasn't going to work and we had to transition over to the production shop. I just thought if I could just keep adding these subcontractors, then I could keep up with the demand. But Justin was checking every single piece that came in the door to make sure that it was done to standard back when we were still working out of our home. And if they had messed up one element in that bag, more than likely they had messed up the other 99 of them. And so now we've got all this wasted product, when honestly, if they were there with us, we could have seen that immediately and caught it quicker. And so we realized right then that time was not on our side and we couldn't have these kind of mistakes. And we had to transition over. But definitely it's a good way to start. It's a good way to kind of, not have additional overhead. Obviously, we have the money to pay our mortgage and we have the money to work out of our home. So we weren't bringing a lease or, any additional expenses on us that come with an actual business establishment by still working out of our home. And until the company pushed us to have to do that, until I looked at Justin and I said, we have to close the company down or you have to quit your job because we can't do both anymore. It was at that moment when that's when we started looking for a place to rent. It wasn't before then. It wasn't the day I told him that this girl was excited about it at the gym. It was a year later when I said something's got to give. We can't have people coming to our house at 3 a.m. anymore, and we have to take this and go, or we've got to say that was fun and shut it down.
You know,
And
in the online entrepreneur community, which I'm a part of, podcasters, bloggers, etc., we always talk about that crossover threshold when you decide that it's no longer financially viable to do your primary job anymore, and you've got to go full time. And everyone looks back and kind of laughs and reminisces about when that day was and how it felt and what your fears were. When you hit that point, it sounds like you're pretty cautious when you do take your risk. Were you already well past the point where it was a logical decision, or was there still like the fear of God in you that maybe this was all going to fall apart at any moment?
yeah, the fear of God was definitely in me, but here's what I knew. I knew that the army wasn't letting me go anytime soon, and that paycheck was definitely going to come in on the 1st and the 15th. I knew that my husband wasn't going to lose those licensures that he has and those credentials that he has. So if this all was to blow up in 30 to 60 days, he could go back to what he was doing. So because of that, I knew that, with the sky wasn't going to fall if we did fall on our faces, but I just couldn't see the opportunity slipping through our fingertips. I remember telling him, like, at one point the toothpick didn't exist and somebody created the toothpick, and now look, toothpicks are in almost every home in America and internationally. And I felt like then, and I still feel like today, like we have that. We have this opportunity, and it was just almost, I would say, disrespectful not to take it to where it could go. If we were going to fail, we were going to fail. But if to fail because we just were scared, I just wasn't okay with that. I wasn't okay with that.
And I think the one thing that's really going to appeal to people listening who see a little bit of themselves in you is the transition from I have a product that people are telling me they want to, you said you were doing 10,000 in sales a month prior to getting on after a pretty short amount of time. So tell us what really was working for you as far as spreading the word, getting sales, making happy customers, and preparing in the run up for Shark Tank, because you scaled pretty quickly. Tell us about it.
Social media, we would not be where we are today if it wasn't for social media. Now, Facebook was different back at the end of 2013.
Definitely.
And the algorithms were not as strict as they are now. I'm sure a lot of your listeners know Facebook wants you to pay to play now, and they want you to boost, and you don't get all the visibility of all those hard-earned likes that you have. But back then in 2013, it wasn't like that. I got full visibility for all the people that liked my page. And so Facebook is where we started and where we really were able to launch out of. Then when Facebook started changing their algorithms, and I have 7,000 people that like my page, but only 800 of people were seeing what I was putting out there, I realized, this isn't good, because I still didn't have the resources at that time to pay to play with Facebook.
Right.
And I needed a different outlet. And that led me to Instagram. And Instagram was and still is to this day one of the single best decisions that we've made as a company, to establish an Instagram account and to have our product visible, and it's an active account. We have over 15,000 followers on Instagram now, and we're growing daily, and I haven't bought any of those. Those are all organic followers, people that are interested in fitness and people that are interested in protecting their hands, and friends of those people, and followers of our sponsored athletes, and people that are interested. So now I know that they're caring about what I'm putting out there. I've just got to keep my social media interesting and creative and not too sales pitchy, and keep them engaged. But back then, if I wanted to increase sales, I would just be more active on social media. And even today, if I want to increase sales, I'll just run a promotion on social media, and that'll happen, because that's where it's at right now. Now, you handle each social media platform differently, how you communicate the message on Facebook versus Instagram versus Twitter. and we utilize a lot of YouTube videos as well. But I'm okay with that, and we've figured that out, and we're not perfect by any means, but it's working. And without social media, we wouldn't be where we are today. It gives us direct access to the people that want our product. We're able to know if they have a problem. We're able to take care of it. It's visible when we are providing that superior customer service, and it's visible what we're doing with our product. Just last week, someone called a gym owner and said, hey, I want to order that new starter pack that y'all have. And our guy that answered the phone, Jason, he said, okay, great. How'd you hear about it? Did one of your fellow owners tell you? He said, nope, saw it on Instagram. I've been tracking y'all for a while, and I'm ready to add it to my gym. You know, that was a $300 sale just because of a free social media post. And that happens every single day.
I'm on your Instagram page right now. I pulled it up while you were talking because I follow it, but you know, as a business owner myself, I find that I don't spend a lot of time following social media as much as doing my own, you know, tactical attack on social media. But I wanted to find out, you know, for you, give me a rough breakdown. You got promotion, you've got, you know, your endorsed athletes, you've got informational, tell me what your breakdown is for your Instagram strategy. What works for you? You know, you'll showcase new product, you'll do sales, you've got all these different categories of things you can post. So what's your modus operandi?
Yeah, it's a constant moving target. And if you're laser focused on one thing in social media, you're probably irritating somebody else, or you're missing the boat somewhere. So I feel like we're very involved, like very successful on social media, because I'm very involved watching what people in my fitness community are doing. So I'm seeing how they're promoting things. I'm seeing who's connected to who, and that's kind of driving it. But yeah, I mean, we go back and forth between motivational stuff to the customer. We have, 10 sponsored athletes. I'm paying to be associated with those people, so I utilize them. They have a reach beyond what I currently have because people look up to them. Is that, there's that athlete category. There's the gyms that are now buying our product and stocking it in their retail area. And so people want to be associated with things that are successful. People want to have what other people have. So that's a category. We've got the silly post. As far as, like, oh my gosh, it's a Monday, today sucks for us like it does everybody else.
Right.
There's not, it's not this master Excel spreadsheet. I do have initiatives that we do, and I do have things based off of what's going on with the company. But I tell the social media contributor that I have that works for us here, I tell him, I was like, it's not always this. And you have to say it's this, and then it's this, and then it's something else. And now it's people don't want to be felt like they're preached to. They want to have fun. They want to chuckle. They want to see something silly, but they also want to see what you're doing. So, there's a lot going on there. And I think where business owners or people that are starting off, where they miss the boat, is they think, well, it's not ready yet. It's not good enough yet, or no one's going to care or be interested. Who cares? Put it out there, see what they say, see if they're interested, see what they connect to, how many hearts or likes you get. On Facebook, I used to really gauge it based off of how much interaction. Now, right, I can't take that to heart as seriously because I know that there's so much red tape there on the Facebook side. But on Instagram, if within the first 10 minutes, I've got 100 hearts, well then, my primary market, they're interested in that. They want to be involved with that. They like that. They're picking up what we're putting down, for lack of a better word. And so I take that seriously.
So at the moment, it's mid-June, and we are just about to have season 7 filming in Los Angeles, right? It starts, I believe, tomorrow, and it's going to go on for the next 2 weeks. So I've offered to my listeners or people who are planning to go on, to clandestinely help them prepare, because you see so many rookie mistakes in the Shark Tank. And I talk to people on the podcast and they go, oh, I wish I'd known, or I wish someone had told me, or I wish I'd been cued into A, B, or C. I think in your experience, going back, what is there that you would have done over again? Anywhere from filming to airing to your shark deal. I mean, what's something that really stands out and says, you say to yourself, Ashley, while you're in bed, man, I wish I'd done that a little bit differently. And here's why. Can you think of anything?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I was in the tank for an hour and 37 minutes, and you only probably saw like 8 minutes of that. So I'm glad that ABC edited out some of the more stupid things that I probably said. Although, the editing was great in our favor, so I'm happy for that.
Yeah, they
But
liked
one thing
you.
I do kind of kick myself about is Mark Cuban, when he asked me, what's the next step past this? I was just so focused on, I don't have enough grips to sell. I'm constantly out of product, that I hadn't thought that there was ever something past that. And now I think, oh my gosh, how naive was I? We solved that problem by just hiring more people and moving into a production facility. That was, looking back, that was easy, and I should have had a better answer for him. I should have said, well, after that, I can go into hand cream, which we now have, or after this, there's Natural Grip 2.0, and it's going to be made out of a different material. I should have had that answer, and I didn't, but I know why I didn't. It's not an excuse, but I didn't because I was so focused on what that problem was at that moment and convincing them that that problem had to be solved, that I didn't really ever sit back until he asked me, really, and forced myself to think, well, what's next? Now, especially after we got our production problem handled, I was sitting back thinking, well, what's next? What now? And I should have had that answer for Mark Cuban.
It's funny. That's at the top of my list here. It brings a visual to my mind of like someone in the ocean drowning. You're like, all right, I'm going to give you this life raft, but what are you going to do after that? You're going to surf? You're going to swim? You're going to go to shore? And you're like, I don't care. Just throw me the life raft. That's kind of the impression I got from Mark, is he just wanted to know what was around the corner. But with anything like that on the show, I don't know if it's fair because I don't know what else you talked about. I don't know if you had another product and you said, well, I'm going to wait to launch it until we hit a certain threshold in sales or, our lead systems, but you never know what happens. So that's one of the things I want to ask about, because they had something interesting that happened on your show that I haven't really seen anywhere else. And I'm going to play a little clip here of the audio where when Mark, Damon, and Robert were in, Damon and Robert basically threw it to Mark and said, we're not going to do the thing where you steal this away from us. Why don't you talk first? And I thought that was really funny. So I'm going to play that clip here.
I'm not going to fall for your crap this time.
Yeah, you know what? I do this every time. I get impatient, and then Cuban comes in the 11th hour. So I'm just going to sit here
Why don't
and
you
wait.
declare, Mark? Showdown at OK Corral.
So yeah, Damon's not going to fall for it. And Robert, like, you do this to me all the time. So I was surprised. I thought Mark was pretty interested. He ended up essentially going out at that point because of the reason you said, where he wants to see where the expansion plan is and where his long-term investment's going to go. Is there anything we missed aside from what you told us?
No, I mean, it was no surprise that Kevin and Lori went out. I wasn't banking on them. I had the thought in my mind that I needed one of the three that were left at that moment to bite off. And it was a shock to me too, that Robert and Damon were so concerned about what Mark was doing. I don't know if that's because he comes with, bigger pockets or why exactly. He hadn't said much up to that point though. He really had just sat there. And so I didn't really know where he was at. I had heard a lot of arguing between them. They were talking over each other. I was trying to answer the questions I could answer quickly and stay, on track. And he really hadn't said much. So I didn't really know where he was. And I didn't know that was going to be his question. And when he asked it, they edited out the terrible answer I gave him, because I know it was completely terrible. But yeah, so no, I don't think you really missed much, because he wasn't really saying much.
Well, so let's recap for everyone. Lori went out on tape almost immediately and just said she really had, I really have to be passionate about what I get involved in, and this doesn't do much for me. So for that reason, I'm out. Kevin said it was, I thought Kevin's comment was interesting. I didn't expect him to, like, Robert got up and did a couple pull-ups. I was hoping to see a muscle up from Robert since he's the quote unquote sporty shark, but I didn't see that. But Kevin, I didn't figure would get anywhere near the horizontal bar, but he said it was actually too vertical niche-y for him, which to me is interesting because, the riches are in the niches, right? Is the maxim. And the CrossFit movement right now is so hot. It's ridiculous. So I thought that he would jump on the opportunity, just understanding that you're probably in the early stages of touching this entire market and there's so much potential there. So for him to say it's too niche-y, I would have liked to get more clarification. Did he offer any?
No, he didn't. And, I hate to sound snobby and I don't want to with this statement, but you can kind of tell when someone gets fitness and when someone doesn't. And I didn't want to get into a battle with him to convince him that fitness is a millions upon millions of dollars a market, and I didn't want to get in that battle with him. And I wasn't expecting him to really understand why people would work out to the point of ripping their hands and then continue to work out just to be able to finish the reps to close that workout out. I never expected him to get that. So when he said it, I just said, okay, great. And I just moved on. Now, if Mark would have said that, or if Damon would have said that, that maybe would have been more of a shock to me. So I probably would have tried to plead my case. But when Kevin said it, I never really expected him to be the fitness guy. So I didn't think he was really going to connect with the product. He was very supportive, and he wasn't harassing me or anything. So I was thankful. I was just thankful for that.
He did. I'm going to play that clip when the final edit comes out before the show. And he goes, someone give this girl $100,000 and get her out of here. Because in his mind, you were getting a deal. You proved that you were worth your salt. You've had almost $200,000 in sales in a short amount of time. I mean, all the important pieces were there. This is where it gets interesting for me, because Mark, before he went out, had a disagreement with Robert about where the market's going. And Robert said, look, I want to see where you go after this. You mentioned power lifters, you mentioned motocross guys, you mentioned a couple other niches. Mark said, no, that's a mistake. Just add more products, serve the market you have and blow it out. So I was kind of on the fence. I have to say, I kind of agree with Mark Cuban. Like, once you get in the CrossFit niche and once they trust you and you have a product they like, I would agree. I would go big and get in front of all the big competitions and get on ESPN, partner with Reebok, and I would just keep cranking out stuff that they need. What that is, I don't know, because I'm pretty lackadaisical when it comes to doing my daily workouts, like one every 6 months or so. But overall, I thought that was the right strategy at the time. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, there's a lot going on at the tank at the time, and it surprised me how aggressive they were towards each other about the different methods. I've rewatched the show hundreds of times probably, and every single time I catch a different nuance of what one of them said that at that moment in the tank I didn't hear it that way, or it didn't come across that way. But now, after watching it as many times, I do see it differently. So at that moment in time, I really felt the same way that what I said. We have a problem. We had a market, which is still our primary market, that wants our product, and we couldn't make it fast enough. I just wanted to solve that problem. After that, I was open to whatever would happen. And I felt that way then, and I still feel that way now. We are closer to solving that problem than we've ever been before. And a lot of months we have it solved where, we have inventory that's exceeding the demand. It was interesting to hear it then. It's interesting to reflect back on it now. At the time, I just really felt like Robert was agreeing with me and was on my side. So of course I'm gonna be okay with that, right? And but thankfully neither one of them were aggressive towards me. They just were kind of fighting in their own little world. That's probably usually a good thing. They're going at each other and not at you. They kind of panned in pretty close when Robert started doing his pull-ups. And I swear, I turned to my wife, I'm like, I think Danielle is like got him by the pant leg and she's actually doing 90% of the work here. I think she's just thrusting him up and down with one arm. Did that happen, or was I imagining that? No, you were imagining that. I was actually very surprised. He was very interested in the product from the beginning. He put it on. He wanted to know how it worked. And then he just walked over there as confident as could be and jumped up on that pull-up bar. And Danielle thought she was going to have to spot him. And if you kind of listen, you'll hear her in the back say, oh, you got it, because she was surprised as well. And I think all the rest of the Sharks were, but yeah, Robert's the sporty one. Yeah, I would have been nervous Danielle would grab my ankle and accidentally break it in half. So lucky for him, it didn't come to that. No. The last thing on here was
I usually ask people when they come on the show right away, who is your shark of choice? But I saved it to the end. And the reason was when you walked out and I saw your passion and your product, and Danielle's there with like her lat wings, just like blowing air all around the room. I thought this has Damon written all over it. He's the CrossFit guy. I don't know how much he benches or how cut he is without his designer shirt on. I really don't, but it had Damon written all over it. And I figured he and Robert would go down to the wire. What I thought was interesting, and I'm going to play the rap here so people will know what happened, is that Damon took a chance by not kind of competing with Robert on a dollar basis. Usually when Robert goes up against Lori, especially when it's a female, Robert loses and he takes a discount on his funds. He always has to come in underneath her, and he still will get beat because people feel this connection with Lori. They want to go on QVC or whatever. So it's funny that when the entrepreneurs want more money, the sharks accuse them of being greedy or say, hey, it doesn't matter. In your case, Damon rolled the dice and actually gave you a deal that wasn't nearly as attractive financially, assuming you would favor him over Robert. Didn't work out that way. And I want to get your thoughts on it.
Yeah, I had one goal in mind when I walked down that hallway when those doors open. I'm getting Damon come, heck or high water. And still today, I've tried to put myself back in the shoes of, man, I can't believe I had worked so hard and prepared so hard to get Damon, and I selected Robert. It just goes to show you that, when you're in a moment and you're standing there, a lot of things were happening, and Damon did make what I would call an arrogant statement, and I would tell him that to his face. I think he knows that. I don't think that it's any surprise, for him to tell me that his time's valuable at that moment in time. It just hit me wrong. It just hit me wrong. And I just couldn't accept that, because what they edited out, what you didn't see, was I said, Damon, why? Do you not think that the product's going to be a success? Do you not think the valuation is right? Is there a problem? I asked him, and he said, no, my time is just valuable. And I said, okay, and then Lori said, what do you feel in your gut? And then I said, I feel like, I want to work with Robert. And, I can't beat myself up about that. I always, think, well, is the grass greener on the other side? But I'm very thankful to have had 2 offers. I'm very thankful to have gone through the due diligence process with Robert and his team, and for our deal to close, and, for him to still be associated with our company. And so it did all work out. And the truth of the matter is I don't know if a connection would have been there between me and Damon. And I don't know if he would have just tried to license me out to Reebok, which I've heard is a death sentence, or could be, the most lucrative thing you've ever done in your life. So I don't know how it would have played out. But even to today, sitting here talking to you, I am surprised. I'm surprised that I was so set on getting him, and then in a matter of just minutes of things that could be said, I changed that. I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing with my personality, but that's just how it played out.
Yeah, it's I'm thinking back to all the women who I've made arrogant comments to, who I've kind of flipped their personality about me in an instant, and I've definitely been there. And I think, speaking from the other side of the fence, I'm kind of half-heartedly joking, but not really, because I've definitely done that before and had to learn my lesson. But I'm guessing Damon probably regretted it too, because I doubt he ever thought for a second that it wasn't going to work out the way he expected it to. So now that you've clued us in on that, I want to play the wrap-up clip so that people can understand what you're actually referring to.
And I'm dying of old age. You have to make a decision.
What do you feel in your gut?
I feel in my gut that, Damon, you're very well connected and you know the industry, but I've been living the grind for a year, and hard work, energy, and effort. I only get less than 4 hours of sleep, honestly.
I believe it.
And I feel like Robert can help me get there, and
Let's
I want
do
to
it.
do a deal with you.
Congratulations.
Congratulations, Danielle.
Didn't see that coming.
That is a big mistake.
Congrats.
Thank you.
Love it.
If that didn't work, I was going to challenge you to chin-up contest and then just leave it at that.
She just partnered up with a cyber theft guy.
No, she partnered up with Sporty Shark.
I'm so happy for you. This opportunity for my husband and our 3-year-old, it's gonna be life-changing, you know? It's just, I'm just so thankful for it, and like hard work, it pays off.
You know, I didn't notice the first time I listened to this that you're a little emotional. You're a little choked up when you're speaking. And I can see you on video. People who listen to the podcast can't, but you actually look like you got a little bit of emotion going now. Tell me about it.
Yeah, I mean, you know, the Shark Tank experience, it's a long process. And I fought for a year to be one of those selected people to walk down that hallway. You know, I had moved all the furniture out of my spare bedroom and put their pictures up in the order that they sit. And no matter how exhausted I was every night, I would go in my, you know, spare bedroom and I would pitch to them, or I would just talk to them, or I would just sit there and look at them, just because I was trying to get that, you know, fear away from being in front of them. And I knew this was a make or break opportunity for us. And so at that moment, I was really emotional that it had like came full circle, and that I had actually, you know, on just a statement to my husband when he's like, well, what are we going to do now? And I said, well, I'm just going to get on Shark Tank. Like, that was just like super easy to happen. I had no idea how long that was going to take me. And then for it to have happened, and then to have what went down go down, I was just emotionally, you know, you just hit that point. Right. And that's just where I was then. And I'm busy running a business now. You know, there's still fires to be put out daily. There's still problems. There's still a lot to go on and a lot to get done. And so to hear that again, it puts me back there. It puts me back, reminds me of how hard I worked to get to that point. So just still makes me a little bit emotional, I guess.
I've never heard anyone, I've seen pictures of the sharks set up at viewing parties. I've never heard anyone say they cleaned out a room to hang up the pictures just to give them that daily reminder. That's interesting. Very interesting.
Yeah. Well, I didn't want to be afraid of them. You know, I didn't want to like be in awe of them. And
Smart.
so the only way I could make that not happen was to kind of be associated with them. It worked really well. I think that's why people ask me like, well, man, you just were on it. You know, that initial pitch, I wasn't worried about that, because I'd been looking at them. Now, granted, they were taped to a wall, but I'd been looking at them for 6 months, pitching that pitch and refining it and talking to them. But when the moment came for them to talk back, that's what I wasn't ready for. My pictures on the wall, they didn't talk back to me.
So I mentioned earlier that I've been helping people, kind of coaching them through. I think the problem people have is they always watch the show, they write down the questions, they fake Shark Tank with people they know, but very few people say, you know what, I found someone who knows business, who watches the show to really lay into me. And that's why they always say they were surprised by a question. I mean, even Aaron Krause, this one always sticks with me. He went in a bunker for 6 months before he pitched Scrub Daddy. And the first question he got from Lori is, why does it smell? And he goes, I never even anticipated anyone asking me that before. And I'm like, that's because you didn't talk to anyone who didn't know the product. And he's like, yeah, that's true. That's the mistake I made. And so I think it's interesting when you say they talk back to me, is people are not preparing enough with strangers to their product. They're sticking too close to their inner circle or trust, you know, like you said, your mom, your sister, whoever, people who aren't going to want to hurt your feelings and not miss out on Thanksgiving dinner the following year.
Yeah, definitely. And even with social media, I have to remind myself of that daily. I just assume everybody knows what the natural grip is. And the truth of the matter is there's millions upon millions of people that don't. And it's our job to still communicate why it's the best thing since white sliced bread, and why you're going to want it, and why you need it, and why it's worth you taking that hard-earned money out of your pocket, and what service we're going to provide you by giving you this product. I was talking to one of my employees last Friday. I'm like, everybody doesn't know who we are. And he just looked at me like I was a unicorn. Like, well, yes, they do. We've been on Shark Tank. And I'm like, that was last year. Like, that doesn't matter anymore. What matters is if we can still communicate why we're relevant. You know, we can't just say, well, we're on Shark Tank. The world knows who we are. the phone stopped ringing from that. And so, yeah, we still have that street credibility, and I'm very thankful for all those opportunities that will continue to come our way. But it doesn't mean we've made it and we can just sit back because we were on Shark Tank.
And it also doesn't mean that you're not going to, you mentioned you didn't have any imposters, which surprised me, but you're going to get competitors. You're going to get someone who engineers a new product. You're going to get someone who lately in the Shark Tank group, puts up a fake page with your product, bad mouthing it, or runs a, fundraising campaign or crowdfunding campaign for your product. It's not actually you. I mean, you're going to have that stuff happen, and it's going to feel like day one all over again, even worse because you're taking a step backwards. So I think that's really what I enjoy talking about with people who've had the Shark Tank tsunami is, look, you're reinventing yourself every day. What are you doing that's really working and making the inroads, taking you from now a $7 million company to, can you see yourself being 15 million or 20 million or 30 million, a number you couldn't have conceived when you started?
Yeah, I can. I think the opportunity is still there. I feel like I fight the battle to still convince other people that those opportunities are there. But just a small change that we've recently done with creating new retail packaging that takes our packaging out of what it was, what you saw on the show, to actual retail packaging that has a ring sizer on the top of it, so you can slide your ring finger in and know exactly what size you are.
Very smart.
That's been a game changer. Now we have to prove that it will work. And in order to do that, I've hired 5 sales reps, and we're getting our product into fitness facilities worldwide. But we launched that in the middle of April, and we're already in approximately 100 facilities. And that's great. These aren't even full-time salespeople. These are people that are paid off commission. So with things like that, when things like that happen, that was a make or break moment, and it's right off the bat successful and showing that there is that additional momentum. It's just even more justification for that we can be there one day, and that we will be there one day. But it's just a long journey. It is exhausting to be a business owner, and I love the adventure of it, and I love the journey that we're on. But I'm not gonna lie, I mean, it's hard to sit back and enjoy it when you're working your butt off on not that much sleep, and there's always something to be done. It's not, did I finish everything on my list today? It's, well, what's left on my list for tomorrow? And more got added. And that's okay. It's just long.
It's the sacrifices and the trade-offs and the unknowns, right? Well, and actually that's a great segue into what is my last question. There's one thing that was noticeably absent from your segment on Shark Tank. No mention of it at all. You have any idea what I'm going to say?
The inside the tank?
Yes.
My husband?
Oh, no. Not your husband. It's licensing.
Oh, yeah.
And, the people are always scared when Kevin's going to come out with his licensing deal. But, you mentioned earlier whether Reebok is going to be like winning the lottery or whether it's a big boondoggle. But I look at the CrossFit industry, the fact that it's televised, that ESPN and some of the other big brands have latched onto it. And I say, when you decide that it is too much work, or that a large facility can take over or help you do certain things more efficiently and give you some of your time back, have you explored any of those avenues? Have you already shut them down? Is there ever a point where you go, you know what, maybe one of these companies could take over certain divisions and I could start just taking a royalty check and let them produce it? Have any of those conversations been entertained?
When your producers prepare you for the show, they ask you what your buyout price would be, or my producers did. And I had already kind of had to think of what my buyout price would be and how I was gonna answer that question. And I said my buyout price would be exactly what I was valuing the company at, but I wanted to stay on in the management role for 5 years. So I had already made that decision then, that I was willing to sell, but I wasn't willing to walk away. So that I never got that question in the tank, and that never happened on or off air, but it kind of put that seed in my brain. I do think I know who will purchase the natural grip. I'm not going to share that with you and your listeners today, because it's not ready for that yet, but I believe I have already identified what company will acquire us. And my hope would be that Justin and I, stay on with the natural grip once that acquisition happens. Are we 3 years out from that? Are we 5 years? Are we 10 years? I don't know. But I think that I've already established who and what that will kind of look like. They don't even know that yet. I know that. I know how I think that'll play out, and I might be completely right, like I was, that people would want to buy it, or I might be completely wrong. But right now, it's just not on the table. But people want to be associated with things that are successful. So if I want that to continue to be on the table, then I just need to keep working my butt off and making continuing to be the dominant hand protection in our primary market.
You're right.
And that's my goal. And as long as that's not even a question, then people are going to keep being interested in what we have going on and what we're doing.
Yeah, if you listen to the show, I'm a Kevin fan. I had him on, and I refer to him lovingly as my surrogate father. But I actually expected, even though he has no interest in fitness at all, ostensibly and visibly, that he would have been the one to say, you know what, Ashley, why don't we just call the name of the company that I think you're actually talking about, that I won't say either, because I would expect they'd have a lot of interest. We'll write out the Shark Tank Tsunami. We'll do a licensing or a buyout deal. And in 1 year, you've got a check for X million dollars. And that company starts with an R, and I expected that would just kind of happen throughout the natural flow of things. So it's interesting to hear that you're thinking along those same lines. I'm surprised it hasn't happened already, to be honest, but maybe I would have thought at least would have come up during the discussion.
Yeah. You never know what opportunities can happen. I've made friends with other Shark Tank entrepreneurs that have been on the show, and the opportunities that come their way just after a rerun have been phenomenal. Some doors have opened off of a rerun that didn't even open the first time they aired. So, it's not a matter of if, I think it's when, and we just have to be prepared for that and, be ready for that. I am committed to providing a product that works, that solves a problem that I had and that I know a lot of people have. And I'm committed to that. And I'm committed to receiving rewards for, what's now almost 3 years of nonstop work.
Hard labor.
Yeah. And if that comes, then it comes. And if not, I'm just going to keep working as hard as possible. But, I'm just very thankful that we have the employees that we have now, the staff that we have now, the brand, the reputation, the opportunity to talk with people like you, and that your listeners even care about what we're talking about. It's just, nothing replaces hard work, and that's just what we're going to continue to do.
Well, I know we had talked in email communication about potentially, aside from the inspirational story and the motivation you're giving people, but allowing a couple listeners to try their first pair of natural grip on the house. Do you still want to do a contest or promotion?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, we can definitely do that.
I just want to say thank you for not only the story and the awesome segment on Shark Tank, but for kind of diving a little bit deeper and letting people know what the real story is behind the story. And I think that's the magic of Shark Tank. Beyond the tank, a lot of people liked it, but some complained that it got too nuanced. And I think what they really like is being able to see themselves in your shoes, picture what it would be like to do what you're doing and to make a deal with a shark and what that looks like and what you've learned along the way. And to me, that's the real takeaway. So thank you for being so open and honest about it, and tell people where they can go if they want to pick up some natural grip right now and learn more about your story.
Yeah, definitely. You can get all of our products at thenaturalgrip.com. Definitely follow us on social media, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at The Natural Grip. And shoot us an email if you have any questions. You can send all the interactions to thenaturalgrip@gmail.com. And I already told you that my husband's phone dings and then mine dings. So don't worry, it will get to me. I won't always get back to you immediately, but you'll get a response for sure. So
now you're going to guilt trip them. They're just imagining you like at 3 a.m. getting the ding. They're like, uh-oh, got to send an email.
Yeah, pretty much.
Crazy.
So don't do that.
Crazy people. Hey, Ashley, thank you so much. Captain Drake, thank you so much. It's been a real pleasure. Thanks for jumping into the podcast.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you for jumping in to the Shark Tank podcast. Please subscribe to the show on iTunes and head over to sharktankpodcast.net to get the show notes from each episode and join the free Shark Tank Insiders list. You can also find us on Instagram and Facebook at Shark Tank Podcast and on Twitter at Shark Tank PDcast.